Welcome back, students. We will continue with part 2 of our political science lesson, that is, working of the Constitution. Now, in part 1, we dealt with the Constitution being a living or a governing structure, and also when it came into force, that is, the 26th of January 1950. We also seen how the right to vote was given to its citizens that are above the age of 18. We also seen what is decentralization of democracy as well as RTI, that is right to information. Lastly, our last topic was we spoke on social justice and equality and how they are the objectives or the aim of the constitution. Now let us proceed with what are the efforts that have been taken to reduce this inequality in the society. So I hope all of you all have your textbooks open, page number 71. Let's get started. Efforts to reduce inequality. Policy of reservation of seats, reservations to keep certain seats reserved. All right. Policy of reservation of seats is meant for those sections of society who have been deprived of the opportunity for education and employment for a long period of time. People who have been deprived, neglected, ignored in the society over time. Now, because of certain, rights that have been given to them, we have to understand that every citizen in the country is equal and should be treated with dignity, respect, and therefore there have been certain seats that have been reserved in order to give these backward classes an opportunity to compete with others. All right, each one of them should be given equal opportunity just as any other person in the society. Accordingly, in educational institutions and in government services, some seats are kept reserved for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. These are the various communities in the society that have been neglected, that have been ignored, that have not been given equal opportunities. But now we have realized that everyone has to be treated equally, and therefore, to remove inequality from the society, these certain efforts have been made by the government in order to make sure that everyone is treated equally, everyone has equal opportunities. All right, seats are also reserved for other backward classes. Okay, so not only the scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, but also other types of backward classes that have been ignored over time, they too have been given equal opportunities. The Scheduled Castes and Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. What do you mean by an atrocity? Means injustice, injustice done to them. This is an important act for establishing social justice and equality. If we want to have social justice in the society, if we want to make sure that everyone is treated equally, all right, so therefore this particular act has been introduced or has come into existence or established. This act prevents any injustice against the people belonging to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. If anyone has been seen or is guilty of committing a crime against the people belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, they can be they are liable for a punishment. They can be given a punishment. All right, so anyone guilty of committing any act of atrocity is liable to be punished. Obviously, just because they belong to a different class in society, a backward class in society, does not give us the right to uh, treat them differently. Okay, so each one has to be treated equally, and if anyone has been seen or it comes to the attention of the authorities that a particular person has done something to this, to the scheduled caste or the scheduled tribe community, then they can be punished. Third, we come to provisions for minorities. What do you mean by a minority? That means a small community that are small in number. Right? Within the society, you have people who have lesser number of people and therefore they are a minority. You already know what majority means. Indian Constitution has made several provisions for the protection of minorities. The government has adopted several policies for minorities to provide them opportunities for education and employment. Again, not only with the with the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes where they have been neglected, even minority, the community belonging to a minority have also been ignored or neglected in the past. So now, with everyone being treated equally, the government has also made certain provisions to make sure that they are not left out. Just because they are smaller in number in the society does not mean that we do not give them equal opportunities. Alright, so each one should be treated equally, and therefore, the government is making sure that they get equal opportunity in terms of education institutions as well as for employment. The Indian Constitution prohibits discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, race, language, and region. We've already spoken about this in our previous lesson or in our previous part, where the government cannot make any distinction, cannot discriminate on the basis of caste, gender, language. Each one has to be treated equally. Okay, this is a comprehensive provision for minorities which fundamentally protects their rights to equality, freedom, right against exploitation, and cultural and educational rights. So, because a certain community is lower in number, okay, or are a minority in the society, does not mean that they do not get equal opportunities. Each one has to be treated equally. Next, we come to laws relating to women and provisions for representation. Now, in the post independence period, efforts were made for empowering women. We already know that the condition of women in the past was not very great, right? We did not have proper rights, no right to educate ourselves, no right to have a job. All the time, women had to be at home and look after the children and the house. All right, so later on, we realized that we are missing out. Women are half of India's population, all right, and we need to make sure that their voice and their opinions are also heard. And therefore, the constitution has made certain provisions to make sure that women also get opportunities at national and international level in order to remove illiteracy among women and to make available opportunities for their development. So, to give them education, to make sure that they get employment, and also that they develop themselves. Now, there have been various laws that have been passed in the favor of women. Okay, the first one is Dowry Prohibition Act. You already know what dowry means. When a man and a woman are going to get married, all right, the girl side have to pay a certain amount of money that the boy asks for. All right, if they don't pay it, then sometimes after the wedding or after the marriage, the girl is not treated very well by her in-laws. Okay, so in order to make sure that this crime, it's almost a crime, because if anyone comes to know that this particular system is still existing, the entire boy's family can be put into jail. All right, so Dowry Prohibition Act is very, very good. That was in favor of women. Next, we come Act Against Sexual Harassment. Now, we already know, you all already are aware of what are the various things that are happening to women in the society. Okay, so women are now scared to go out of their houses after a certain period of time because they are so scared for their lives. They could be killed, they could be raped. Okay, and therefore, in order to protect women in the society, this particular act came into force or existence. Next, we have Domestic Violence Prohibition Act. What do you mean by domestic violence? In the household, if a man is seen or heard to hit his wife, many a times we see this in certain families where the father is hitting the mother and then the children don't know what to do. Okay, so now there are certain provisions that the constitution protects the rights of women through this particular act, that is the Domestic Violence Prohibition Act. That means in the family there should be no such violence, okay, that could create a harmful or an unhealthy situation for the children as well as the woman. Next, we see that women have had inadequate representation in politics and political institutions. What do you mean by this? In the beginning, again, with the condition of women being so bad in the past, okay, they did not have the right to vote firstly, let alone the right to stand for elections. They never could stand for elections. They could never be part of political decisions, political agendas. So now we see the 73rd and the 74th amendment. Okay, we've already come across these two amendments before, where constitutional status was given to self-governing institutions. We've seen this previously. Okay, in the same 73rd and 74th amendment, there were reservation of seats for women. Okay, 33% was reserved for women in local self-governing bodies. Later on, the reservation has been increased to 50% in many other states, including our very own Maharashtra. A national commission for women has been established. A national commission meaning a group of people that came together in order to protect the rights of women. The Domestic Violence Prohibition Act was important to protect the dignity and self esteem of women. Obviously, now we already know, I already explained to you what is domestic violence, and to prohibit it, to stop it from happening, because we need to protect women and their dignity and self esteem, to respect women in society, not to consider them as inferior to men but equal to men. It rejected any kind of dominance and authoritarianism. Okay, that means this particular act does not take into consideration any dominance to be overpowering over the women. Okay, authority, to have authority over women. Okay, so this particular act cuts out all these bad ideas and bad notions of man being superior to women. Inhuman practices were banned by law, and traditional dominance was refuted, which gave momentum to the woman liberation movement. So, any type of inhuman activities that were done towards women, or if women were not treated equally in the society, this particular act has tried its level best to make sure that men and women are seen equal in society. Now, in your textbooks on page number 72, there is this table given to you, representation of women in the Lok Sabha. I want all of you all to read the questions that are given in the side and try and read the table given to you. Try and find out what exactly, where there have been more women elected, where have there been less women elected. And towards the end, we see a small little purple box. The visibility of women is very low in public life. We've already seen this in the past. Women were not allowed to come out of their houses and participate in political uh, problems or political decision making. If family structure, social surroundings, economic sector, political spheres become more open, women will get a chance to participate in the decision making process that can provide a different direction to politics. In the house, the mother also is always the one who makes certain decisions, yes or no? Obviously, your father is the head of the family, but the woman also makes or gives out her views and opinions, and it is taken into consideration. And majority of the time we see that what the woman decides is what actually happens. Similarly, in society, we should also consider the opinions and views of women, because they might have a different opinion. Okay, and therefore it might give a different direction to politics also. For this purpose, women's participation should be increased in the representative institutions. All right. So, with this, we come to the end of the various efforts that have been made to reduce inequality in society. We come to our last topic, that is the role of judiciary. What do you mean by a judiciary? Anything that gives out justice, all right, to be fair to its citizens, to make sure that whoever has committed a crime is punished. Okay, the judiciary in India has played an important role in strengthening democracy and helping to make towards achieving the objectives of social justice and equality. While interpreting the provisions of the Constitution, the judiciary has always taken into consideration the fundamental objectives of the Constitution and also the intentions of the Constitution makers. We will try to understand the contribution of judiciary in this regard with the help of the following points. Now we come to the first point, that is the basic framework of the Constitution. Firstly, the Constitution is dynamic. What do you mean by dynamic? It means that it is active, it is constantly changing according to the changing times. All right, and also it is a living document. We are the living democracy. Okay, why? Because I said democracy is a government that is of the people, for the people, and by the people. So we see that majority of the power lies in the hands of the people, and therefore we, because we are living out democracy, the constitution becomes a living document. The constitution has to change according to the changing conditions, and the parliament has a power to make these changes. So the power lies in the hands of the parliament in order to make these changes, because we need more and more laws, we need more and more rights for the citizens in order to protect them for the welfare of the citizens. The judiciary has accepted this power of the parliament to make changes in the constitution, but at the same time specified the limitations on this power. Although the parliament has the right to change or to add certain new rights, new laws, new bills, new acts, okay, but it has also been given certain limitations. That means just because they have the power does not mean that they misuse it. The judiciary has taken a stand that the parliament, while making or amending the constitution, cannot alter the basic structure of the constitution. Alter, to change. They cannot change the basic structure of our constitution, which is what, children? The basic structure of our constitution is nothing but to remember that India is a secular democratic republic. We've seen this right in the beginning of the lesson. Secular democratic republic. Okay, I've given you a small little box there. The basic structure of the constitution generally includes following provisions. First, republican and democratic form of government. We've already seen what republic means. It means that it belongs to the people. It does not belong only to one person and that person rules all of us. We as people of the country, it belongs to us. We are part of the country, as well as we choose our representatives. Yes or no? During elections, we are choosing our leaders. Next is federal structure of the constitution. What do you mean by federal structure? Federal structure means a form of government and states that recognize the power of the central government while having state level government powers. Okay, so this is like decentralization of power. All right, so where you have the head and then you have various other division of power, so that it does not lie only in the hands of a few, because if that happens then there can be misuse of power. Promotion of unity and integrity of the nation. The nation has to be united, because united we stand, divided we fall. Integrity, in order to be honest, to be full of values. Sovereignty of the nation. Sovereignty meaning to have supreme power. But who has this power? Authority of the nation to govern itself. Because we are Indians, only Indians can govern us. No other foreign country or no other foreign person can come and dictate terms and conditions to us, because we are a democracy. Lastly, secularism and supremacy of the constitution. Secularism not connected to any religion. Okay, because in India there are so many religions and we respect all of those religions. Supremacy of the constitution, that the constitution should be held high, because it is the book that contains all the laws, the regulations that we need to follow in order to make sure that there is smooth functioning in our nation. As citizens, it is our duty to follow these rules and regulations, because if we don't do it, then there is going to be complete chaos in the country. Next, we come to significant judicial decisions. The protection provided to the citizens by fundamental rights in the Constitution has been made more meaningful through various decisions of judiciary. Now we know that as citizens we all have rights. Okay, we have the right to speech, we have the right to movement, we have the right to follow any religion. Okay, now all these rights have to be protected. Anyone can come and take away our right from us, but it is the Constitution that protects us. Because of that, the judiciary plays a very important role. Okay, and we have seen various some of the important subjects on which the court has given judgment includes, firstly, safeguarding the rights of children. The children are the future of the country, and if we don't protect their rights, then we have failed as a country. Next is protection of human rights. As humans, we have the right to live, firstly. No one should be able to take away life from another. Okay, protection of the honor and dignity of women. We've already spoken of this. Women too need to be respected in society, and therefore to make sure that their rights are safeguarded, are protected. Individual freedom, each one has the freedom to do whatever they want, but in limitations. If I say that you have individual freedom, does not mean you are free to go and kill someone else. Of course, you have freedom to go and speak your voice, and if you have certain problems with that person, then of course you can go and talk to that person, but it does not give you the right to take away life from someone else. We have responsibilities, or we have certain freedoms, but it comes with certain responsibilities. All of y'all have seen Superman and Spider-Man, I'm sure, and in that, what's mentioned, with great power comes great responsibility. So because the power lies in the hands of the people, we have to be responsible enough to use those powers properly in order to make life comfortable, not only for yourself but for the people that are around you. Last one is tribal empowerment. Of course, we have so many tribes in our country. Okay, so to make sure that they too are not left out, they too need to be included in all the decision making. These efforts made the political process in India more mature, more advanced, more progressive, and more successful. This is important to understand. Democracy requires good governance or best governing practices. Following are the features of good governance. What should be done to bring about good governance in democracy? In order for our democracy or our democratic government to be successful, what are the various things that need to be followed? First one is accountable and responsible government. We've already spoken about this in the RTI, where right to information is given to all the citizens, and because of this RTI, people have been able to make a connection with the government, and also has reduced secrecy, and the government has become more transparent, more responsible. Effective and if efficient government, of course, for our country to be competing with other countries, we always say that India is an undeveloped or developing country. Okay, in order for us to be considered as a developed country, we need to have a good government that is going to support in the financial progress, in the social progress of the country. Responsive government, if there are certain problems that are taking place in the country, how fast does the government take to respond to those various chaotic situations? Transparency in working of the government, of course, again back to RTI, where nothing is hidden from the people. The government has made sure that they show all the various policies and budgets, so that nothing is hidden from the people. Just and all inclusive development, just to be fair in everything, all inclusive, to make sure that no one is left behind, everyone is included. People's participation in the governing and decision making process. I said same thing, children, over and over again. Democracy is a government of, for, and by the people, and therefore people need to be involved in the decision making of the government, because in the end, whatever policies and whatever bills and acts are going to be established or introduced in the society, it is going to affect our lives. Okay, and therefore if it is going to affect our lives, we should make sure that it is good. Otherwise, if it's bad, then obviously we have to voice our opinions. Okay, lastly, we come to there are many challenges before India's democracy. Of course, we don't say that India is such a progressive country that we have no problems. Of course, our country is riddled with problems. Okay, but the government is constantly working on them to make sure that they try and solve as many problems as they can. The government's acts and policies have not put an end to all of them. Yes, some few problems which we did have, we have tried to solve them, but there are also a lot of new problems and several new problems that are confronted by us. It is important for us to develop a democratic mindset. What do you mean by this? If we are a democratic government, then we need to have a democratic mindset to make sure that we as individual people treat everyone equally, to make sure that there is no distinction made, no discriminations. If we individually have a democratic mindset, then there obviously our democratic government will be a complete success. With that, children, we come to the end of our lesson. In our next lesson, we are going to talk about the election process in India. Okay, now if you come to page number 74, there are question and answers given to you there. You have to do lesson number 3, question number 3, 4 and 5. 1 and 2 you can do in the textbook itself. Okay, with that class we come to the end of our first lesson in political science. I hope all of you all have understood it. Please read through the lesson once more, all those little questions which are thought provoking. As young citizens of the country, put your mind to it and find out what are the various problems that we are facing and how we can come up with certain solutions to solve them. Okay, thank you children and have a wonderful day.